After a daring US-Polish-Ukrainian evacuation of 62 orphans from Mariupol, the children are safe in Poland. Sadly, Russian propaganda has been activated, accusing the Americans of child trafficking or political incorrectness. This is interesting because would child traffickers give detailed information on the action, or would they inform the media about the evacuated children? Apparently not everyone is capable of coming to such a conclusion, but the case is even more alarming. The police, the media and the officials have been bothering the children. What's even worse is that yet another Ukrainian orphanage, which was to be evacuated from Vinnytsia, bombarded by Russia, when heard about the struggles of the children from Mariupol, decided not to leave Ukraine. They chose the risk of Russian bombs to struggle with the Polish officials and Russian propaganda. Today we'll have Pastor Matt Shea, the main organizer and person in charge of the amazing rescue mission of the Ukrainian orphans from Mariupol. Then, in the show, we'll talk to Dr. Tomasz Pawłuszko about what will happen to the Polish MiG fighter jets. Will they get transported to Ukraine? We'll also talk about the current situation at the front. This is Against the Tide Live. I'm Tymoteusz Chojecki. Welcome. Welcome. Today we're having a special guest, Pastor Matt Shea, former representative in the Washington House of Representatives. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
We're also having Pastor Paweł Chojecki. Good afternoon. And Cezary Kłosowicz today also as a translator. As you saw, shocking news from Kazimierz Dolny. We'll try to explain what's going on. First, I'll ask Pastor Matt. You're a representative of Loving Families and Homes for Orphans. That is a Texas-based non-profit organization. Why did the foundation decide to help the orphans from Mariupol?
They asked for help to come out of country, and when you have children in very dire distress and they're asking for help, you go and help. This is the Christian and very important thing to do from my perspective. I think anyone, regardless of your beliefs politically, your beliefs religiously, should go and help children at the moment's notice. It is a hosting organization that hosts Ukrainian orphans in America with Ukrainian families, with the intent that ultimately that ends in adoption. Obviously, every child should have a loving home, and that's the point behind the organization. It's been doing this hosting program for several years.
Please tell us. We know what the process of evacuation of children from Mariupol looked like. We know about your impact and the transportation of the children from Lviv to Poland. What happened next? What did you struggle with? We talked about the efforts of the police and the haters. What is the situation in Kazimierz Dolny now?
Unfortunately, there have been some elements here in Poland that have been helping to disrupt the humanitarian relief we're providing to the orphans with lies and rumors. And what's very unfortunate about this situation is that those lies and rumors right now are preventing another orphanage from coming to Poland. They are saying we would rather risk the Russian bombs in Ukraine than be a tool of Russian propaganda here in Poland. Loving Homes and Families for Orphans is made up of many different organizations and people. But I will speak for my own organization back home. We actually have, as our media director, somebody who is an award-winning filmmaker that put out an award-winning film against sex trafficking. And so this idea that we somehow are coming here, that we ran through the woods in the middle of the night, is absolutely absurd, and what it's doing is hurting the children.
What you said was quite shocking. I mean, what we also mentioned in today's title, that children from the orphanage in Vinnytsia would rather risk Russian bombing than being evacuated to Poland. Why? We're talking right now about accusations and rumors, but what is or has been really happening to the children in Kazimierz?
There are lies and rumors that somehow we want to sell these children, or the most outrageous, I think, was that they wanted that we wanted to sell them for organ harvesting or something like this. This is Russian-style propaganda, and only Russian-style propaganda could turn a rescue mission of orphans to a resort-style facility that has basketball hoops and a soccer field. We're even coordinating horse therapy, which is for trauma, and also has medical care, psychological care, 3 meals a day. Only Russian-style propaganda could turn something that good into something bad. To try to accuse an organization that is actually against sex trafficking into an organization that somehow must be involved in it is absolutely absurd. And again, this is hurting children in Ukraine right now and preventing them from evacuating to Poland, which I believe is, and we are investigating this, may be in violation of international law.
I would like to say something about those ugly things that have happened apart from the online slandering of Matt, us and others committed to the cause. The campaign of hatred reached not only the area of Lublin, but it has also reached Polish Americans and Pastor Matt's friends in the US. I think it is not a spontaneous movement. Nobody can have so big media reach after posting one thing. And this is why we think it is a deliberate action aimed at derailing the humanitarian help for the Ukrainian children, turning Poles and Americans against each other, causing hostility towards the Americans, and pushing away the volunteers and people of goodwill who support this action. These are some obvious aims of the Russian propaganda, visible not only in this situation. When it comes to the trauma that these children have experienced, note that they have gotten away from the Russian bombs. Mariupol today is one of the most severely attacked cities, surrounded as a matter of fact, and it is still standing in bravery. Lately, a maternity hospital has been attacked in Mariupol, exactly where the kids came from the very heart of the war, from the center of horror. They have come through some trauma on the road, and praise the Lord, they got to Lviv thanks to the help of pastors in Ukraine, and most importantly, thanks to 2 brave Ukrainian women. And there, hero, yes, hero Americans risking their own lives went to pick them up, being at risk. Tell me, which of the haters went to Ukraine to help a single child? Anyone? This is the extent of the filthiness that you're doing. So to all the people of goodwill who have engaged mindlessly in this, correct these lies immediately. Then, after 2 days of peace, the police came. The children did not know what police that was. The kids were 6, 7 or older. They didn't know whether the police wanted to take them somewhere. The police did not come once. During just a few days, they came 4 times. 4 times, different types of police came, also criminal officers, as if there were crimes committed here. Officials came from both district and mayor offices. Some people claiming to be from social assistance concerned about the kids being sold out also visited. All this is happening right before the kids. It is not like a policeman in plain clothes coming and asking for a talk with the hotel manager or with Matt Shea. It's all happening in the hotel lobby. Uniformed police cars. The children can see all this. Not only are they stressed out and scared, thinking of what have they done wrong, of what has happened there that has caused so many police interventions, inspections, raised voices, scandals. The safety of these children, our work with them, have been disrupted. Matt, instead of organizing activities for the kids, instead of talking to the school headmaster or the local authorities about how to help the kids, has to challenge these lies. And the worst is that yet another orphanage, which we were going to help evacuate, has stayed in Ukraine when they heard of what is happening. It is outrageous. Those kids might die there. Vinnytsia is being bombarded. And all this will be your fault, foolish haters. Let's talk about Pastor Matt. The haters have written, virtually they are an informal group of people, Americans and Poles, connected by informal religious faith and political views. They have no legal authority to take care of the children. I suppose many people reading this will look Pastor Matt Shea up on Wikipedia, and what they read is far-right, Christian, conservative. It is also said that you are involved in domestic terrorism. Why such an accusation?
Well, the interaction that I've had with terrorists is fighting against them in Iraq and Bosnia. I am a decorated Army combat veteran. I spent years fighting against terrorists. In fact, it's offensive to try to say something like that. There have been never any criminal investigation, any FBI investigation. There have been no interviews, nothing like that. This is just people saying this, and as we all know, putting something on the internet does not make it true.
We'd like to show you now the pastor's military achievements. Bronze Star in 2005, NATO Medal in 2000, Meritorious Service Medal in 2005, Order of St. Maurice in 2005, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal in 2005. Pastor Shea has also been awarded as a civilian Guardian of Small Business in 2012, Defender of Freedom Award in 2012, National Security Eagle Award in 2015, and State Representative of the Year in 2019. You served in the army for over a decade, right?
Instead of going to Wikipedia, people should go to the LinkedIn profile that I have. I'm very transparent. I have listed every single award, every license, every certificate, everything that I have literally done in my life and that I've been involved in. That's where they should go and take a look at it. I was in the military for 10 years. I'm also a practicing constitutional attorney and obviously a pastor. The ideas, again, that they're trying to put out there on Wikipedia are absolutely absurd. These ideas that if somebody doesn't believe the same as you do, that you want to kill them, again, absolutely absurd. We believe that there is a right of self-defense. Just like Ukraine has a right of self-defense against the Russian invaders, we believe that. That's true. But that's totally different than saying you're going to go out and somehow force people to believe something at the point of a gun. That again, we don't believe anything close to that. What is very upsetting is that elements here in Poland, using Russian-style propaganda, have brought in politics and religion into a humanitarian issue and are doing these things. Each of these 4 visits that happened are doing these things right in front of already traumatized children, that we are trying to help and make sure that they get the treatment that they deserve and that they have a right to.
It came as a shock to me that during an interview a Polish journalist asked you whether you'd want to kill those who disagree with you. It's outrageous to ask such a question to somebody who's just saved the kids, evacuating them from Lviv. Why would journalists ask such questions? Pastor Chojecki. And this is the most interesting part. After all, they're well-read and educated people with some knowledge about the world. And now they're using religious segregation in humanitarian aid. Some are allowed to help, some others are not. Matt is an object of hate, but at the same time, a priest from Gniezno in Greater Poland, who said he'd only accept Ukrainian refugees if they're Catholics or Greek Catholics. Non-smoking, over 10 years old, preferably a grandma with her daughter, with children, with no pets. So the priest openly discriminates against Ukrainian refugees based on religion. Both Matt and we have never discriminated against anybody. There were no questions about the children's nationality or religion. It didn't matter to us at all. We knew Putin wanted to murder children, and indeed he's just bombed the hospital in Mariupol, at the maternity hospital in Kharkiv. Putin wants to kill them. That's why we're saving the kids. And now we're observing some Polish officials, journalists and police officers introduce discrimination. Can Protestants help children? Can they risk their lives to save some Ukrainian orphans? Can patriots or right-wingers help children or not? An absurd kind of discrimination has been used here against those who are helping, risking their lives and paying for it with their own money and time. We have discriminated against neither children nor those who are cooperating with us. There's a great facility belonging to the Polish Journalists Association. We have different views on many things, but in this case, cooperation goes very well. The facility was organized together with Mayor Żuk and homofaber volunteers, who represent the left-wing circles. We didn't make a fuss. It didn't even cross our minds to question them about their views on abortion, homosexuality, etc. It doesn't work vice versa, though. As Protestants, we are openly being persecuted by both authorities and a large part of journalists. They keep questioning us as if we were criminals, instead of giving another medal to Pastor Shea's team. Marta wrote, "If Pastor Shea was a priest, do you think they'd behave that way? I dare to doubt. I'm sure not a single inspection would take place if this was a Catholic initiative." Let's talk about your further plans. You've been libeled. Are you going to keep helping other children? So there are several things that we need to talk about with this. First of all,
I want to establish very, very clearly, and we have the documents to prove this, that the Ukrainian consul representative came to the facility. We didn't go to him. He came to the facility, he saw the facility, and he stamped with an acknowledgement that we were there, and there was not an objection to the facility. And again, this is a resort-style facility. What I find very disturbing is the rumors out there. Somehow we ran through the woods in the middle of the night or something like that when we went through the Polish border checkpoint. We went through the Ukrainian border checkpoint. We came to Kazimierz. We had the Ukrainian consul come there and stamp the document officially that we were there. And they're acting, again, like this never happened, when it actually did happen, and conclusively disproves what these rumors are saying.
You can see both documents on the screen. The other page got the stamp.
So our first plan right now has to be to protect these children from those people perpetrating these rumors and lies. That has to be our first goal right now. The second part of this is many of these children, there are really three groups of children, but many of these children were in the process of being adopted by Ukrainian families in America. And let me define this very clearly. This means that they had been approved, these families had been approved on the American side. They had been approved by the Ukrainian ministry, but they had not yet been approved by the Ukrainian courts, and now that's not possible due to the war. So this first group of people, very clearly finishing those adoptions is something that is in the best interests of those children. And again, this is a very common thing for many separate denominations of Christians in America to come together, work together for the best interests of these children finding a family.
So, legal adoptions in the United States, authorized by the Ukrainian government and social care institutions with a consul's approval, are shown in Poland as something evil. I think it's a scandalous thing. Adopting children by American families is shown in Poland as harming the kids. Words fail me. Putin's bombs. Remember Putin trying to help with his humanitarian corridors to Russia? Mined or bombarded. Was that okay enough for those who criticize Americans who are risking their lives and saving Ukrainian children and want to give them lives with Ukrainian families in the US? Such devotion is a crime according to Polish journalists and authorities. That's horrendous. Listen to it, Polish diaspora. Imagine one of you trying to adopt unwanted children from Polish orphanages and being called criminals because of that. Will you write about it, journalists? Will you try to?
Pastor Matt, you want to add something?
I do. You know, it's very clear we have been working with the Ukrainian government. We've been working with the American government, the entire process. And this second group of children, Loving Homes and Families for Orphans, hosts families in the United States very frequently. We've been doing it for years. We host 20 to 30 children per year. And the point behind that is families get to know them, and the intent is that adoption should flow from this hosting program. So the second group of children that are with the orphanage right now had already been hosted in America, and people had begun the process of adoption, filing the paperwork, but they had not yet been approved. So the next thing on the table is making sure that those adoption processes continue, again with the coordination of the Ukrainian government and the American government, so that these children can go into a safe family and a safe home. The third group of children are the children that none of these things have happened. And so in either event, whether they're in the first group or the second group or the third group, right now we want to make sure that we establish essentially normalcy in their lives. They are being educated, They have people that speak the language that are around them. They are receiving the medical and psychological care that they need. They're receiving treatment for the trauma. They're receiving 3 healthy meals a day. And that they're trying to be restored to some semblance of normalcy. So this is what we're working on right now. We have trained educators on the ground that are helping with this, and we also have specialists coming in that are have experience, long amount of experience in dealing with trauma and dealing with what we call special needs, or people that need more care and more attention. This other matter is very serious. The 4th Geneva Convention very clearly addresses this issue, that where there's 2 warring parties, that they may and they must allow for children to be evacuated to a neutral country. This implies very clearly, it says reception, that this is a friendly reception into the neutral country. Slander, attacks, clearly is violating the spirit behind this international law, that orphans and those that are caring for them should be received in a friendly manner into a country. And I think, for me, the most troubling aspect about this is we should not be bringing politics and religion into a humanitarian crisis. We should be coming together for the good of these children.
Amen. Pastor Paweł Chojecki, would you like to add something? I really hope some honest journalist will turn up who, instead of escalating the hatred and treating heroes as criminals, will write the truth. I still hold this hope. I'm running out of it, seeing what Polish journalists are doing, either keeping silent or joining the accusations. I hope there are honest journalists among you, and I'm calling to you. Write the truth. Do it for the sake of over 60 children saved from Putin's bombs and shells. We'll finish this part of our show now. Our guests were Pastor Matt Shea, Pastor Paweł Chojecki, and Cezary Kłosowicz. Thank you for the translation. We'd like to show you a clip from yesterday's program in which a journalist, Hanna Shen, said that the attacks have been caused by hatred towards us as a Protestants. I'm not easy to surprise anymore, but I must admit I was shocked that it's possible to be so mean in the face of a human tragedy. There's nothing wrong with being curious and making a phone call to find out more, and if everything's okay, offer help. This would be a normal thing. But what we see is an attack after attack, making you busy with explaining that it's help what you're doing. I think it's horrible, and it's caused by the fact that you're Protestants. It's a time to build, to do good, but there are still people who want to destroy and add to the evil that's already been done to the kids by Putin. Unfortunately, the group of people bothering you seemingly has some journalists on their side and some officials to boot. Around 20 journalists contacted the offices of the district authorities to check on the information, but nobody has written anything to calm down the atmosphere. They got interested in the case, but when found out everything is okay, suddenly there was nothing to write about. I don't think the journalists called to find out something, but to make a fuss. They wanted to make things worse, as if the kids were not miserable enough. If journalists would even called to find a scandal, but found nothing of the sort, they'd have written about it. That's why I don't even consider them to be journalists in the first place. Let's stop considering them as journalists.